Ulquiorra Xehther, a Vastalorde, soon turned a Rancor and a Spada, who basically fought for Sosuke Aizen and was the strongest Spada out there. His attack of Lanza del Relapengo being the destruction capacity being that of the state of California, and pretty much his small abilities like Pesquisa, Hieru, and Zero. Now, what would happen if the same Ulquiorra Xehther were to reincarnate into the MC of Naruto Uzumaki, or the person Naruto Uzumaki? What would happen, and how would Naruto change as a person? Well, we'll be going over that in this what if of what if Naruto was Ulquiorra's reincarnation, remastered. But without further ado, guys, enjoy. Obviously, I'm supposed to say like sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alright, so we start this what if on the day of the Nine Tails attack. Naruto had been born and he had beautiful black hair and green eyes with pale skin. Obviously he wouldn't have like the hollow hold yet or the tattoo number 4, but he would just have the basic appearances of Ulquiorra. Obviously, I know babies don't have hair, but usually in everyone's what-ifs, they usually give them hair, describing them as being white, or the same color as the Reincarnation, forgive me. As Kushina would look at us and start ruffling the hair, it was pretty silky, and she liked it. It didn't matter if it wasn't blonde, but, she still thought it was beautiful. So, what would occur next is Naruto would, be taken by Biwako, Hiruzen's wife, as she would start cleaning him up. Obviously, there's many processes when a baby is born, but basically that'll just be the easiest way I can describe it as. So, pretty much in the middle of this, obviously a little bit after she finished, Obito would go in and kill all the Yambu, defending the barrier, and he would just appear. He had gotten through the barrier with almost no difficulty, and that was quite a feat. But he would appear behind Biwako, snap her neck, as Naruto could just feel the presence of this, hostility, as he would start crying. He had sensed someone die, and out of nowhere, a huge presence of despair would go through the air. I guess you could say this is Naruto's way of trying to let his parents know that he's in danger. Now, Obito would just grab Naruto and head into, the main room, as he would actually have difficulty holding Naruto. The presence itself was really fucking depressing. And once they would go into the main room, he would hold the kunai to Naruto's throat, but obviously with some mild difficulty. Like, he's literally feeling Ulquiorra's despair. Now, Minato would tell, Obito to calm down, not knowing it was Obito, but I'm still going to call him Obito. It's easier for me to call Obito rather than the masked man or Madara. As what would occur next is pretty much Minato would then be distracted from Kushina wanting to save, Naruto, as this is exactly what Obito wanted. He had gotten Kushina alone, and he had worked out the Nine Tails from her seal and released it into the village after putting it into a genjutsu. Now Minato would be carrying Naruto, putting him home, as he would just stay there. Obviously, that's not exactly what happened, as Naruto would be taken to the Sealing Shrine. They would try to seal the Nine Tails into Naruto, but Minato would look at Naruto. He could feel that wave of despair, and he's wondering if he had given Naruto this Nine Tails, what would happen? Like, would he be more despaired? He didn't want his son to be sad or despaired. So he had just sealed all the Nine Tails into himself, hopefully wishing, or I guess hoping, that he wouldn't die from it. But he would then seal all the Nine Tails into himself. As what would happen next is once Minato would, see Hiruzen come over there, he would tell Hiruzen that he sealed half the Nine Tails into Naruto. Naruto were wondering, wait, why would he do that? So pretty much Minato has a plan. He feels that Naruto will master this despairing power, and everyone will just assume that it was the Nine Tails. So yeah, it would be easier for everyone to assume. Obviously, in the military status, it would be weird if the Nine Tails wouldn't just be in the Leaf Village, because then all those all the other villages would start attacking, knowing full well that they have no Jinchuriki anymore. They don't have the Minato, and most of their prodigy ninja are still kids or teenagers, so they couldn't really do much in the war. As damn, my voice. But pretty much after the Nine Tails attack, Naruto would be raised by Hiruzen for 4 years. After this, he'd be given an apartment as he would start to grow on his own, finding the sword or manifesting the sword, but thinking he found it of his, sword. It has no name, really. I mean, you could call it Ulquiorra. You could say his release name, or I wouldn't really say. It's just his sword. And in this 1 year, he would start to just, I guess, not master, but instinctively start to acknowledge his abilities, like his hollow, not his hollow, what am I saying? His Zero, his Bala, and his Hierro, learning just basic ways to infuse those techniques into himself. As what would happen next is we'd go over the whole Naruto saving Hinata. Now, I watched SixMysta's What If Naruto and Hinata Went Evil. Now, they joined the Akatsuki. I'm trying to have something else. I like everything up to the point a little bit before they joined the Akatsuki. So, I'm definitely going to be trying to, do that. So, yeah. And by the way, I'll be linking that in the description, I got some inspiration, so I should at least, link it in the description. So, pretty much Naruto would be walking through the forest, as he had loved seeing the beauty of the forest, even though it was dark and it was it had a lot of sadness in the air. It was not something you'd want to see, and everyone who'd went there had become horrified. But Naruto didn't really have a problem with this. He had walking through the forest, as I think that's right, walking. I don't think that's actually a word. He had taken a stroll through the forest when he'd come upon Hinata and getting bullied. Now, Naruto would output his despair from just a distance, as the kids would start to feel that same despair that their parents were telling them about in the forest. Now, they didn't know that Naruto was actually there. They just thought it was some myth. So they would start running off as, Naruto would, walk into the clearing, as he'd help Hinata up. As he would ask her name, what's your name, girl. That sounded weird. But basically, he's like Ulquiorra. So he would just have a dead stare. And, that's, never mind. But pretty much, Hinata would say, Hinata Hyuga. As Naruto would say, oh, nice to know you. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. As he would go to shake her hand in the, in a nice way of greeting. So Hinata would accept the greeting, as pretty much Naruto would then see Hinata's guard, come along and all. As Naruto, for some reason, wanted to keep talking to Hinata, so he had told Hinata, before the guard came along, to meet him here tomorrow. As once the guard would, take Hinata back, it's like, oh, thank God, you're still, alive and all. As what would happen next is, they would leave, with Hinata going back to the Hyuga compound and Naruto going back to his small home, or his apartment. Now, once he would get there, he would just rest for the night, as the next day, he would have gotten up pretty early. He was excited. He was like, maybe I shouldn't go there, it's maybe too early. I don't think she not might be an early riser. So he waited about maybe 2 to 3 hours before he would go over there. And once he would, go over there, he would see Hinata there, as they would just start conversing, talking about their childhood and all. As Naruto would say that he had no parents, as he had always had this despairing personality. Well, Hinata had, I guess, an okay childhood up until the point it came to like the clan matters and political views and all. As pretty much, how do I say this? She wasn't really the prodigy of the Hyuga clan, like her sister, her little sister, or her cousin, Neji. So pretty much she had been, I guess, shunned by everyone else due to her lack of strength, and she was kind of looked upon on to be the next head of the clan, but she didn't really provide that. So Naruto would tell her, hey, one day we could, you don't have to be Hyuga anymore. I feel like one day they would exile you, and you can be your own person. As Hinata would for some reason, just like this idea. As Naruto would start asking her over a year, maybe 2-3 years, Naruto would start asking more personal questions like, what does it feel like to have a heart? Or what is a heart? As she was wondering what these emotions that Hinata had felt, and and other emotions other people had felt. As Hinata would try her best to explain, but her only being an 8-year-old, she wouldn't be as philosophical as an adult or as Jiraiya. So what would happen next is, Hasashi would realize at the meeting, as Hasashi and the rest of the clan heads still are under the appearance that Naruto has the 9 tails, and everyone still, tries to keep their kids away from Naruto due to this fact. They had grown a despising hatred towards him. Obviously, like some of the clan heads, they know that Naruto is just a Jinchuriki, he's not actually the 9 tails, but just seeing him, his face, his despairing aura, obviously from Ulquiorra, they grew despised of him, or at least not all of them. Like, Shikaku is cool with Naruto, he's a G for that, he's the Giga chat. I'm just kidding. But pretty much what would happen is Hinata would be seen, caught by Hasashi herself, meeting with Naruto. She'd be taken back to the Hyuga, where, Hasashi'd be annoyed. First of all, Hinata had not grown the strength to be the clan head, but now he's hanging out with, I guess, a nihilistic person, in a sense, since Naruto is kind of nihilistic if you think about it. But pretty much what would happen is Hasashi would unfortunately put the Hyuga seal, I forget what it's called. It's like a seal. Whenever you die, the Byakugan would just burn out, because it prevents other people from getting the Byakugan. Also, there was a hidden meaning since it controls its members. But Hinata would be exiled from the clan, as the guard would kind of be sad. He had grown accustomed to Hinata's presence, and he didn't really mind her, as he would kind of be confused when Hasashi would tell the guard to escort Hinata and Naruto out. So what would happen is pretty much Hinata would be exiled, like I said, and Naruto would be like, hey, you know what? I have an idea. As obviously for now we don't know what he's talking about, but pretty much what would happen is in these next few years, Naruto would save anything he got from the heroes, and obviously it still had to pay rent and all, but anything he saved from that, he would try to keep it. So he had saving money for maybe around, they're 8, so for the next 4 years. With Naruto even missing the academy, since honestly this may be wrong, but in this what if I guess it would kind of be obvious that you have to pay for the academy, and Naruto just didn't go to the academy as he wanted to save his money. He had obviously had a plan in mind. I'm not going to say it right now, but later on. So it had been a 4-year time skip, as Naruto and Hinata had grown accustomed to each other's presence, obviously since they did kind of live with each other, as it had been the day they were finally going to leave this village and head out. Obviously, if you guys don't know, like in every what if I do with Naruto, I aged them up by 4 years, making them 16 years old. It's just it feels more comfortable for Naruto to basically just spawn a light beam arrow, or not arrow, but spawn abilities of Ulquiorra when he's 16 rather than a 12-year-old pretty much using the segunda etapa. It just doesn't feel right. So Naruto and Hinata had been finally able to leave the village. With Naruto technically not really being a ninja, he would still be considered a rogue. He just wouldn't be a rogue ninja, so he wouldn't have that much of a bounty. It would just been a, not a dead or alive, just an alive, like just a, return him to the leaf type thing. And Hinata wouldn't really have much of a bounty, but she would still have a bounty. She did leave the village, and there was a type of ride or die thing there. So yeah, she would also attain a bounty. But her and Naruto would just head out the village. They had been walking for days as Naruto would suddenly feel a sensation in this direction, the right. So he would then walk over there, as once he would get there, he had come upon the remains of the Uzumaki village. As pretty much what would happen is Naruto would walk up to the village as he would stop. As Hinata would say, "Why did you stop, Naruto?" As Naruto would say, "There's a seal here." It seems the seal has some type of blood contract. Only people who attain the blood of this place can actually go in. So, I'm gonna give it a shot. He would go in, as the seal wouldn't really, crush his whole body or something like that. So Naruto would then reach out his hand, as obviously, how do I say this? Naruto, I guess, going in with Hinata at the same time will, I guess, have the seal recognize Hinata as not a hostile combatant. I don't know if you understand, but if you do understand, then great. As they would, walk inside, Naruto would see the ruins, but he would go to the main house. The main building that was in the middle of the village, it had not been destroyed. Honestly, it really couldn't be destroyed, or at least not by any ordinary ninja, or any ninja at all during the invasion. So, and nobody could actually really go in, because they realized that after the war, if anyone went in, they would immediately die. It was some sort of trap, like I said, blood contract. So Naruto would walk in as he'd go through, and for some reason, when he would go through the seals, he'd realize that he was an Uzumaki. I mean, his name is Naruto Uzumaki, so he had come to the conclusion that this place was the Uzumaki's remains, which he had read about in multiple books in the library. Obviously, not in the normal part of the library, since usually the Hidden Leaf had subdued any information about the Uzumaki to the public. But obviously, let's say Naruto got a little sneaky and found a book about this, or a scroll. So Naruto would start looking around as he would accidentally walk on a button, or not a button, but a plate in the ground, as this would open a door. And once they would get in the door, they would see a bunch of scrolls and ceilings for even multiple clans, like the Uchiha clan, the Hyuga clan, the Yabarami clan, the Nara clan. What am I saying? I mean the clans. So like they would have their secrets, their weaknesses, their strengths, how they could possibly get stronger. As the Uzumaki were planning to give this all to those clans as a sign of courtesy. They didn't really have any time to do that, since they had been invaded by 4 other ninja nations. So yeah, Hinata would walk over to the Hyuga scrolls and start to look at them. Obviously, they put seals on, so only people from those clans could actually look at those scrolls. So Hinata would start looking through the scrolls, as she would see there's more evolved versions of the Juken stance and new techniques she can use by infusing water or any other elements into her Juken stance. Obviously, this would start to develop her twin lion fist. Well, Naruto didn't really need this. He would just meditate. For some reason, he had loved meditating, and every time he meditated, his chakra, or he thought it was chakra, his power would increase, and he would learn more abilities, like Zero Oscuras or Grand Ray Zero, and other abilities like that. With Naruto not being limited by fighting only in the roof of the possibility of destroying Las Noches, which has been stated to be infinite, or not infinite, but endless in the data book. As random tangent, but it is what it is. As what would happen is, we'll do a time skip about 4 years. Him and Hinata had grown together, and pretty much, obviously, they would grow a relationship, a romantic relationship, as they were 16. It was perfectly normal at that time for teenagers to, I guess, have relationships with the opposite gender. I don't really know how to describe this, but pretty much, Naruto would learn more and more about the resurrection and the segunda etapa, learning all of the abilities of Ulquiorra Xehther, and also being Ulquiorra Xehther at the same time. But due to Naruto being with Hinata, he had to learn more about his emotions and realize what they are, which led to them getting that same romantic relationship. As they, like I said, it had been 4 years, as Naruto would start to look on the map. He had wanted to be like Aizen. Honestly, that kind of sounds weird. How would he even know about Aizen? I mean, like, if he's Ulquiorra's reincarnation, he had to have some memories of the past life, as he had seen Aizen's goal to basically take over everything and just rule it. And I guess not impose, but convince everyone that his ideals were right. So Naruto would get out a huge map of the 5 great nations, as there would be a small land near them. This would be none other than the land of the waves, and there was a huge land conflict between three presences. This would be the Land of Fire, the Mist Village, and Gato. Gato had been colonizing the village, or the land, to stop the Land of Fire and the Mist Village from attacking. Pretty much Gato had bought off the Mist Village, or at least not the revolution part, but the Yagura, regime, to basically not invade, and pretty much convince them that it wouldn't be smart to do so, since they were in a revolution against Mei's forces. While the Land of Fire really didn't have much control, it was too far, and they didn't really receive that mission from Tazuna. So what would happen is he had not the black market itself, but he had went into the mission request, and he had saw a perfect timing or perfect opportunity to take over the Land of the Waves. He had seen a request from a bridge builder named Tazuna, as he had wanted to help Tazuna, and in return he'd rule the land as some sort of king figure. As pretty much what would happen is him and Hinata would head over to the Land of the Waves. Obviously they knew Zabuza and Haku would be there, since pretty much they had pretty big bounties. So if they were to collect the bounties and show everyone that, Naruto was fit to be their leader, obviously they would not even deny it. Most of the kids and adults were in poverty, so if Naruto gave them a chance to prosper, they would obviously take that chance. So Naruto would get ready with Hinata as they would head over to the Land of the Waves. Now they'd be walking there, as obviously the Demon Brothers had been sitting in the puddle at the same time, waiting for any possible ninjas to come there, since they had heard rumors of 2 rogue ninjas taking the mission. Since if you really take a mission in anywhere in part of the ninja world, it becomes official. It's like an official statement saying, hey, I'm going to take this mission. Obviously that had been against Zabuza's, Haku's personal interests, since they're getting paid by Gato. So pretty much once they would get there, like I said, the Demon Brothers would jump out of the puddle, going to try to kill Naruto and Hinata. Naruto would turn around, just glancing at them, as a huge aura like a greenish aura would surround him, as he would just put despair into the air. So the Demon Brothers would just fall over, as their mouth would start to gurgle. That sounded weird, but it was almost like they overdosed from the amount of despair in the air, which sounded weird, but it's definitely doable, since pretty much Aizen had erased a civilian in the Karakura town just by walking by him. He had literally turned into dust. He brusquely got Hakkai'd at that point. As Naruto can do the same thing. He has spiritual pressure, he has access to existence erasure, and soul manipulation. So Naruto and Hinata would keep going forward, as they'd come upon Zabuza and Haku. Now Haku wouldn't really be in the leaves and all, pretending to be a mistracking Anbu, since Naruto wouldn't really care. He's a rogue ninja, doesn't care whether or not someone is a mistracking Anbu. He's not gonna he's not just not gonna go after the bounty. So Zabuza would then face off against Naruto. Naruto would unsheath his sword, and Zabuza would be like, "That's a beautiful blade. Hopefully we can have a good fight." Since Zabuza he is the one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist. That does, just because he's rogue doesn't mean he doesn't want to enjoy the nice sword battle or a Kenjutsu battle. As Hinata would face off against Haku, summoning her, Byakugan, not summoning, but like activating her Byakugan as she'd get into her Juken stance. Obviously, the Hyuga princess getting ready to possibly kill Haku, as Hinata would be completely different from her canonical form, not being as shy or hesitant. Naruto would then start to fight Zabuza. It started clashing sword to sword, feeling something he had heard about from Grimmjow in his past life. One day, Grimmjow had been challenging Ulquiorra to a fight. He had always wanted to fight Ulquiorra, as Ulquiorra would ask, "Why do you like to fight so much?" He had asked in a curious sense, as Grimmjow would be like, "That's so obvious. Don't you feel it whenever you're fighting? You feel this excited tingling in your heart." As Ulquiorra would stop him there. "Heart? I don't think I have one," as he would point over to his hollow hole. As Grimmjow would be like, "You and your nihilism, not that hard, but you would just feel the excitement of the battle. You'd want to continue doing it." As you saw the battle between me and Kurosaki, he was having fun too. Obviously, he didn't really say it, but he was enjoying the battle just as much as I do. When 2 people start to enjoy the battle, that's when you actually have a real battle. As Ulquiorra would be like, "Interesting." As he would go back to the fight, as he would start to feel that same excitement that Grimmjow was talking about all those years ago. As he would start clashing with Zabuza, as he would appear behind Zabuza, and Zabuza would, react to that accordingly. As pretty much Naruto would swipe over his blade, similar to how Zangetsu did when clashing with Ichigo, kind of summoning a Getsuga Tensho out clashing to do more damage. This would be the same, but instead of a Getsuga, it'd be a Sero. He would spawn a Sero, with clashing, and he would point his finger as Zabuza would be off guard and wouldn't even know what the technique was. So Zabuza would pretty much get his arm taken off by the Sero, as Naruto would then jump back, as Zabuza would start to become enraged, and also he would scream out in agony. Now what would happen next? He would start to swing wildly with his left arm. He had gotten his right arm taken off. So he would start swinging wildly, as he would even form water to replace the blade, or not his blade, the arm, not water, but he would form a water clone, and then the clone would just merge into water, in a sense, replacing his now gone arm. As Naruto would be like, "Hey, that seems like a pretty good idea." Obviously, Naruto would just end him. There was no difficulty. He had already easily taken off his arm, so he would just slice down Zabuza. He had looked over to see Hinata pretty much shutting off all of, sorry to say this, shutting off all of Haku's chakra networks. This means if you have no chakra present, you will die. So with no life force left, she would fall over dead at Hinata's feet. As Naruto would walk over to, Hinata, as he'd congratulate her, as he would tell her, "Hey, that's your first kill, so good job." As pretty much they would go over to Tazuna, obviously to Tazuna's house, as they would say, "So we're here to escort you while doing the mission, or building the bridge. We had already defeated most of the threat, so you'll be fine." As Tazuna would thank, Naruto and, Hinata, as Tsunami, I believe her name is, Tazuna's daughter, would offer them to, eat, since they had, it's around dinner time. It was getting dark out, so it's kind of obvious for Tsunami to offer that, since also they are our liberators, or Naruto and Hinata are their liberators. As Naruto would accept the offer graciously, as they would sit down for dinner, as that'll be the end for that night. Now the next morning, they'll also have that, forgive me before I do the time skip, pretty much they would have that same meeting with Inari saying that they won't beat Gato, but Naruto would tell them, "We had already beat most of Gato's forces," or highest enemies. So, be quiet, child. Soon you will prosper in this happy feeling. Tomorrow you would feel liberated, but soon you would feel something else. As obviously Naruto's, I guess, foreshadowing what he's gonna do, rule the land at that point. As the next day, they would go over to the bridge as Gato, like 30 minutes later, Gato and about over 1,000 of his mob members would come onto the bridge. The bridge was pretty big, so no one was getting smothered like at Travis Scott's concert. No, I'm just kidding. that was a dark joke. Pretty much what would happen next. Oh my god. Wait. Oh man. So I got distracted there. My bad for the joke. But pretty much so man, I had to pause, man. That was too funny, man. Saber just telling me how I'm gonna get canceled. I'm like, okay, I don't care though. But pretty much what would happen next is Gato's men would start running over to Naruto, going to try to slice at him, as about 10 of their swords would land on Naruto, but for some reason the swords would shatter on contact, as Naruto would say, weak, you can't even you can't even slice me, you can't even slice past my iron skin, as he would swing his blade, as a huge gust of wind would occur, as all the men would be sent flying back, as they would scream, and they'd be like, ah, or, I'm not even as, pretty much Naruto, man, I can't, man. Alright, so Naruto would then form a Cero, as he would say, Cero Oscuras, as a huge dark green Cero would occur, as for some reason something weird would happen. The surrounding matter around this Cero would start warping reality itself, as Naruto would say, this Cero is so strong that it'll warp time and space itself. So despair in this knowing that you are inferior to me. As you'd release this Cero, as there'd be a huge explosion. Now once the explosion were to be subsided, they would see everyone dead, including Gato. Naruto would walk up to Gato before then reaching into his pocket, as he had got out his keys for the house, or the how do I say this, a fortress where all of his riches reside. This will be Naruto's basically new home. They'll pretty much tell everyone to go to the remains, or not everyone, but at least half. They would try to spread the population to the Uzumaki remains. Naruto not taking off the seals, but accommodating them. Any new people would be added to the list of who can enter. And pretty much those villagers would start building for Naruto, repairing the village as a sort of courtesy to Naruto. As Naruto would head over to Gato's now dormant fortress, he would go in there and claim it. He had made an announcement to everyone in the land that he was now the ruler. And this is what he was talking about to Inari. Something unexpected would happen. And this is exactly what he meant. So he had now taken over all of the land in the waves. As this means he would start getting access to the black market, more information brokers, as he can buy them out to give them information. He had heard rumors from some of Jiraiya's spy network information brokers. Naruto bought them off, and he started. He got information on what the Akatsuki was, possible locations, and also about Orochimaru. He had heard Orochimaru had recently defected from the Akatsuki due to wanting to steal or try to kill Itachi. He had, wanted Itachi's eyes, which had failed miserably. Itachi is the double S rank ninja in the bingo book. There is no way Orochimaru was doing anything to Itachi. So what would happen next is Naruto would start to look at some of the Akatsuki members. He'd be like, these might be good, not replacements, but members of my new regime. He was interested in Itachi. It even heard stories about how he was sick and all. And then he had saw people like Sasori, who had not really had much desire to stay in the Akatsuki. So pretty much he had wanted to recruit most of the members but there were some members that just wouldn't agree with this. So it'd be Pain, Conan, and this masked man he had saw in some of the rumors and reports. Now he had just familiarized. He had felt some familiarization to this masked man. Obviously, he had recognized him or felt him during the Nine Tails attack. So he had some theories that this guy was behind the Nine Tails attack and behind Ulquiorra massacre, which he had heard about. Obviously, that still would happen. He would still be in the village and all. So pretty much what would happen next is Naruto would obviously hear about the Chunin exams coming up in the Leaf Village. He thinks, if I were to infiltrate and take over the Leaf Village, forgive me, I was about to say the land of the waves, the Leaf Village, as if he takes over all of, if he were to take over all of the Land of Fire, he pretty much disconnects the Uzumaki remains and the Land of the Waves to him. So it was a nice, land he was pretty much procuring. Then he had heard reports about Orochimaru recently killing, or rumors about Orochimaru killing the Kazekage and taking his place. Obviously, this is really deep secrets, like black market type shit. So no, this wouldn't just be heard from some random villager to villager. No, this was something that only like maybe S-rank ninja would know. So let's just say no one would know, really, except him and some of the people who had attained that information. So he would then say, okay, so if I take over the Fire Village, that means all the Sand Village would subside. They would surrender to me. They had lost, so not lost, but pretty much the Kazekage would be there, or Orochimaru would be there. Now, pretty much all the Sand and Sound Village would be following Orochimaru, and if he had defeated Orochimaru in front of them, it would a show of strength. They would bow down to his power. This means he would take over the Sound Village, then the Sand Village. Then from there, he would take over the Stone. The Stone hated him. Or obviously, if they knew he was Minato's son, they would despise him. Obviously, because 1,000 of men and women were killed and multiple possible moms and dads or siblings were killed in that war, so they had a deep-seated hatred for Minato. So he would take over the Stone from there and possibly then go to the Cloud. He wanted to take them last. They had the two Jinchuriki, the perfect Jinchurikis, so he had to make sure to attain all of his armies together as to make sure he takes over the Cloud Village. So Naruto would start theorizing his plans as he would start, he would want to collect a team. Now, he would be the quote-unquote Jonin sensei as he would collect a team. It'd be Hinata and 2 other people. Now, if you're wondering, who are these 2 other people? I'll be going over that. So Naruto and Hinata would be walking through the Land of the Waves, or the outskirts, when they'd see 2 people. They'd see Suigetsu and Karin. Suigetsu and Karin had pretty much ran away from Orochimaru's bases. Karin had convinced Suigetsu to, let's go to my old home, the Uzumaki remains, and let's see how it was. As once they would get there, they'd realize someone was habitating, and pretty much Karin would go over to the Uzumaki remains and see there's buildings that were rebuilt, and people were going through, having fun, and doing their business. As Karin would kind of be a little happy yet confused. Naruto would then appear in front of Karin as he would sense the Uzumaki blood in her, as he would ask her, who are you? I do sense some Uzumaki inside of you, so I assume you're an Uzumaki. As he would extend his hand towards Suigetsu, and Karin shaking both of their hands, saying, well, I'm Naruto Uzumaki, the leader of the Land of the Waves, and now the head of the clan, or the clan head of the Uzumaki clan. As Karin would be like, the head? What do you mean? As Naruto would explain that Kushina Uzumaki was his mom, and Kushina Uzumaki was tied to some of the royal clans. Not clans, but parts of the Uzumaki village, making him the clan head. Since Karin was really just the cousin of, or not cousin, but pretty much Kushina was his aunt. Was her aunt. What did I say? Aunts. That sounded weird. It sounded like I'm actually saying aunts, not aunt. God, never mind. But pretty much, damn bro, come on, Saber, don't do me like that. Now, pretty much, Karin would be excited, hey, she'd be like, I'm down. Suigetsu not really having a problem with this. I would say, I just have one request. I want the Executioner's Blade. As Naruto would be like, man, you guys are really lucky, you know that? I'd recently just killed Zabuza Momochi, and his blade I have sealed into one of my scrolls. So Suigetsu, your offer will be, I guess, given to you, I guess. I don't know how to say it. As he would give Suigetsu the Executioner's Blade, as, yeah, pretty much what would happen is Naruto would ask them if he wants to be a team. He is going to the Leaf Village to take over, as they will be their team to become Chunin. As he would say, you guys can be the ninja from the Uzumaki. As he would start to hand them, how do I say this? He would start to hand them ninja headbands with spirals. Obviously, that was the symbol of the Uzumaki village. So Karin obviously would feel proud putting this on, since the Uzumaki had not retained such how do I say this, fame in order to become a village. As Naruto would send a letter to Hiruzen saying if they could participate, with Hiruzen not really having any reason to decline. He had heard of Naruto's wave making. If you don't know what waves are, it's like popularity. Naruto had made waves in the land of the waves, taking over as their leader and stopping the Gato, the dictator. So pretty much what would happen is he would be graciously accepted, as Naruto would bring along 3 teams. Obviously it'd be Hinata, Suigetsu, and Karin. Then it'd be some other ninjas. Honestly, they're not actually known. They're just like random fodder. So I'm not being mean to them though. I'm just saying they're not as strong as like Karin, Suigetsu, or Hinata. So pretty much once, they would set out on their journey to the Hidden Leaf Village. Now, once they would get there, they'd look at the land. Naruto had looked, and he would see this place hasn't changed in 4 years. Kind of pathetic, but kind of not at the same time. He would remember all the times that people had given him, glares. Obviously, he had known why, but he had seen, obviously no change. As Naruto would be like, soon. Obviously, what he means by soon, he means he's going to take over and become the leader, obviously. So this will be a huge political advance for him, and obviously military advance. As what would happen is, once they would get there, the Chunin exams would commence. Naruto would be like their Jonin sensei, or kind of like leader, as he'd be sitting up with like the Hokage and the quote-unquote Kazekage, which would just be Orochimaru. So we'll time skip to the finale. I'm not trying to go through the Chunin exams, it's not necessary. So pretty much what happened is Orochimaru wouldn't really go after Sasuke in this timeline. Now, if you're wondering, wait, why doesn't he go after Sasuke? He had been pretty much drooling over Uchiha. That sounded sus. He had been drooling to get the Sasuke's eyes and take over his body. But pretty much what happened is he had seen Naruto, every time he had tried to enter, he had been interrupted by Naruto himself, Naruto knowing Orochimaru. As he would pretty much, we'll flashback to a meeting. I'll give you some context. Naruto had been walking through. He had been waiting for Orochimaru to go in. Once he had gone into the forest, he had authorization to kill him, because pretty much pretty much Orochimaru would be seen as interfering, and pretty much anyone who goes in the forest of death, everyone else had signed waivers to kill each other, so Orochimaru would just be killed. Okay, so Naruto would stop him as he would walk up to the quote-unquote Kazekage, as he would then whisper into his ear, I'd take a few deep breaths, Orochimaru. You should really stop drooling over that Uchiha. You're not getting him. And let's just say his brother will be watching you. He'll be coming back soon, possibly even here to kill you. I've even heard it from him himself. Obviously, this is bluff, but Orochimaru would start getting scared. He had remembered the Itachi's Genjutsu. He had been in there for 3 days. He was getting stabbed by these earth pillars, in a sense, or not pillars, but just like metal poles, in a sense. They hurt a lot. Let's just say that. As no, that sounded sus. Pretty much, we'll time skip to the finale of the Chunin exams. Now we see Naruto as he's watching in his chair. As pretty much I did this on purpose because Naruto's gonna be fighting Orochimaru. Then he's gonna be like, "Hey, Hiruzen," after he's dying and all, he's gonna be like, "Hiruzen, I want you to make me the next Hokage." As he would like forge a letter and all, and Naruto would be the next Hokage, connecting the lands and all, big brain moves. Let's just say that. As pretty much the finale would start. Now, if you're wondering what the fuck are the fights, like what's happening. So the other two teams from the Uzumaki village, they would be eliminated in the preliminaries, unfortunately, as the fights would be Hinata versus Neji, Karin versus Dosu, and Suigetsu versus Shino. And obviously that'll be later on, since for example Neji would have went against whoever he's fighting, and Dosu wouldn't even be there, so Karin would then move up, as Hinata, obviously, like I said, she'll be fighting Sasuke. I mean, not Sasuke, pause, okay. Hinata will be fighting Neji. Karin goes up. Suigetsu will fight Sasuke later on after the Gaara fight, like Sasuke versus Gaara. Okay, now before my brain does some weird shit to me, but pretty much the fight would start. Now Neji would win whoever he's winning against. Shikamaru would still fight Tamari. Shino would fight against none other than Karin. Yeah, I got that right. Okay, so we'll start the fight. So Karin would jump down, as honestly this would actually be quite an interesting fight. Like, Karin had mastered her Uzumaki chains, and she had known pretty well taijutsu, while Shino can just cancel her chakra, or start to suck out her chakra. That sounded sus. Absorb her chakra. But pretty much what happened is, once the bugs would go to try to absorb her chakra, they would start absorbing it, but they would just pass out. It was like they took too much. They took too much more than they can chew, or something like that. I forgot the exact quote, but you bit off more than you can chew. So all the bugs would start, like, how do I say this? Falling over, from like eating all that chakra. It had overloaded their bodies. They were just bugs. So they couldn't really handle that much chakra. As Shino would then widen his eyes, as obviously behind his goggles, but he had been surprised as he had no weapon left. I mean, he was good at taijutsu, so he had gotten a fight, but fighting against Uzumaki chains, he had no kunais to cut off the chains or anything, so he was pretty much done for, like a red bozo. No, I'm just kidding. But pretty much after that fight, we'll be going over pretty much Neji versus Hinata. Now this fight, everyone's waiting for this, or at least I think everyone's waiting for this. Neji had been tormenting Hinata in her childhood, and Hinata having a different personality, she would want some eye for an eye type shit. So pretty much Hinata would jump into the ring before Naruto would, Naruto would go into her mind, but like use some telekinetic ability. I feel like this could actually be a thing. There was an ability within the Espada where they can each talk to each other in their mind. I feel like that actually happened in Bleach, but I just can't remember where. But pretty much she would tell Hinata, like, telepathically, hey, chill. Not chill, but like, don't kill him. I know you hate him a lot, but maybe after this you could kill him, but for now, calm down. Obviously Hinata would be like, all right. As we obviously know why she's especially not submissive, but obviously Naruto's like their leader, so that sounded weird, but pretty much what happened is the fight versus Hinata and Neji would occur. Now if you see me, I'm laughing and shit, it's because Saber's he's making these jokes, bro. I can't resist. Okay. Now pretty much we'll start the fight. Now Neji would recognize Hinata. She looked completely different than that shy girl he had known all those years ago. So pretty much what would happen is Neji would run over to Hinata, going to try to shut off all her chakra networks, but something weird had happened. Hinata had summoned these two lion fists in her hand, as for some reason Neji would feel something weird. His chakra had been pulled out of his hands, and his Byakugan would disactivate due to not having enough chakra to activate it, as Hinata would say, I absorbed all your chakra. Let's see how it's used against you. As pretty much Neji would then see he's in the zone, as Hinata would have the Lion Fist doing the 264 palms. Let's just say Neji's getting butt fucked. Nothing. But pretty much what would happen is Neji would completely just lose. It would start like, imagine having Lion Fist. They're shutting off every chakra point and doing damage to you while still absorbing last bits of your chakra. That thing is gonna hurt. It's not gonna tickle, okay? So he'll fall over as he would start to spit out blood, as Hinata would stand over him, as she would then grab him by his hair, as she would then throw him into the wall, as Hinata would then be pronounced the winner. And Hinata had felt quite good. She had gotten her revenge, and let's just say she was feeling good. No homo. As pretty much the next fight, we'll be going over Suigetsu versus Sasuke. Yeah, I like that. Now if you're wondering what happened to Suigetsu, does he still have his usual power-ups? Let's just say Suigetsu's fucked. Now, I know I like my boy Suigetsu, but think about this. Sasuke has the Chidori. What is Suigetsu? He's a Hozuki clan member. He has water. Obviously, I'll still go over the fight and all. Maybe I'll have him win. Who knows? We'll see. So pretty much, Suigetsu would jump into the ring with the Executioner's Blade, as all the Hokage and the Kazekage will be shocked to be like, is that the Executioner's Blade formerly wielded by Zabuza Momochi? But I heard in the Bingo book that he was killed by Naruto Uzumaki, as killed by the leader, Naruto Uzumaki, but not by Suigetsu. As Naruto would explain, yeah, I killed Zabuza, but Suigetsu wanted the sword. His brother, Mangetsu, had wielded all of the blades, as Suigetsu, reacting to Mangetsu's death, wanted to, be like his brother by wielding all the blades, so he had given him the Executioner's Blade. And also, Suigetsu had been trained by Kisame and Zabuza, being the next apprentice for the Executioner's Blade before Kisame went rogue, and Zabuza went rogue too, due to the whole bloody mist, the revolution and all. So, Suigetsu would unsheath his blade, being, the Executioner's Blade, as Sasuke would be kind of scared. I'm not gonna lie, man, he's shivering, bro. Nah, I'm just kidding. But, he'd be a little scared, as he would see that huge blade. Obviously, if someone pulled out a huge blade on you, you'd be scared, too. That sounded sus, but pretty much what would happen is Sasuke would start to use Lee's taijutsu, which he had copied from the Lee versus Gaara fight. As every time he had punched Suigetsu, pretty much what happened is he had some type of intangibility, sort of with Logia fruits. Every time Sasuke had kicked or punched him, it had just turned into water. It was sort of like, what's his name? It was sort of like Sabu's Mera Maranobi, but with water. Every time somebody had punched him, it had just went through. There was no actual damage. So he had pretty good durability. So, I know, with Sabo, if you punch him, you would just burn up and die. But that's not exactly what happened here. God, my nose. Sorry. But pretty much what would happen is Suigetsu would then raise his blade as he would swing down. Sasuke would then get cut on the arm, as he was jumping back and he got cut on the arm. As he would jump back on the arm, putting chakra into his feet, as he would summon the Chidori. Now, what would happen is Sasuke would be running towards him in a straight line. So, Suigetsu wasn't worried. He had not been constantly moving, so what would happen is Suigetsu would make a gun motion, as he would then use the Hozuki clan technique, as he would shoot out a huge beam of water, as this would hit Sasuke in the lung. As he had lightning into his hand. Water and lightning not going together, he would start to get electrocuted, as Suigetsu would body flick in front of Sasuke as he would kick him in the chin, sending him flying into the air. As two water clones would appear where Sasuke was going up, as they would then slam him back down before Suigetsu was gonna go cut him, he was gonna cut his arm out. No, I'm just kidding. But pretty much Suigetsu would just punch him in the gut, knocking him out. That's too brutal to have Suigetsu cut him in half. Come on, bro. As what would happen after the fight, Suigetsu would then be considered the winner. We'll time skip a few matches up to Sasuke versus Gaara. Now this is when the attack would happen. Sasuke hitting Gaara with the Chidori, as Suigetsu would be like, oh, so that's the damage I would have taken. You know, he was like, damn, bro, good thing I shot him. You know, not actually shot him, but like something like that. As the attack would happen, pretty much Naruto would unsheath the sword immediately, pointing the sword at Orochimaru's neck, saying, I told you, Orochimaru, you're done. As Hiruzen, obviously knowing it's Orochimaru, he would, you know, throw off his Hokage cloak, as he would be in his combat clothes with his staff out and all, as Orochimaru would then be pinned. Naruto, not giving him any chance, he would just slit his throat. Like, he's not playing around, as he would destroy his body. There was no chance of revival at this point, since you kind of need the body and all. Also, none of the members had reached that much of an ascension in the curse mark, so they couldn't get revived. Or Orochimaru couldn't get revived, forgive me. So what would happen is, after Orochimaru was killed, pretty much Naruto would go over to Gaara. He had started to transform into his full tail beast transformation in the middle of the damn arena. Like, that was kind of brutal. As Naruto would jump down, as Shukaku would see him, sense his presence, as Naruto would then use his Ryatsu to put despair in the air, as pretty much Shukaku, he would feel something. He would feel the sadness, the emptiness in his heart. He really has no heart, but he would start to feel sadness in his heart, as pretty much Naruto would say, it seems I'm gonna have to release. Oh, that sounded sus. No way. He would he would go into his resurrection, as pretty much he'd be like, enclose Murcielago, as there'd be a huge gust of wind, as once the dust would be revealed. By the way, this is the first release, not the second. First resurrection, not the second. That sounded sus. But pretty much he'd have the wings and all. He'd have his face would become more dead inside, not dead, but like he'd look more like a monster, as claws would form on his feet, as he wouldn't have the tail. He did everything but the tail. As Naruto would then summon the Lanza del Lamun, or the Lanza del Relapengo, whatever you want to say, as he would then throw it at Shukaku. He would start throwing multiple of these, as, you know, he had pretty okay aim, but, you know, it was doing okay, I guess. I don't know what to say there, but he would throw like maybe 4 of them, as you then form about 2 Sarah Oscuras. And let's just say Naruto didn't do this easily. He was breathing deeply and all, but he had a lot of training with this, so he was okay at the least. So after this, Shukaku would then be, you know, sent back to, you know, the seal, as Naruto would walk up to Gaara before then slamming his fist into his stomach, tightening the seal itself. He had been in the Uzumaki village for 4 years. He had to learn some sealing jutsu, right? He had learned the tetragram seal, as he had properly resealed Shukaku, keeping him in place, as he had also done something else. He had used some type of sealing to have Gaara under his control, as he would have Gaara transform again, and as he would have him murder Hiruzen. Naruto would also help Naruto kill Hiruzen, as that would have been the end of Hiruzen. Now I know Hiruzen's like the whole god of shinobi and all, it would be impossible, but Ulquiorra smoking that pack, rip bozo. I'm just kidding. But pretty much Hiruzen would die. Naruto would then start his own attack, as he would go through the village, either convincing people to join him, like Kakashi or Guy. Obviously, Guy would not join, so pretty much Guy would just like go into his 7 or 8 gates and just start going all out. And Kakashi would be a little hesitant, because this was pretty much Minato's son and Kushina's kid. So he had made a promise to take care of Naruto, which he had failed to do. So maybe him joining, he would be able to, how do I say this, properly remake for what he did in the past. But Guy was like, oh fuck no. He would start to go into the 7 gates immediately, as Naruto would face off against him, as some other people would join, like Hinata, Suigetsu, and Karin, as they were ready to throw down, they were ready to throw hands. As pretty much what would happen is the sand, seeing this and the sound, they would surrender to Naruto, just as Naruto planned. So what would happen next is Guy would rush over to Naruto, trying to kick him in the face in 7 gates. Naruto would casually dodge this, obviously, it would be very hard, but it would make it look like it was casual, as Naruto wouldn't have to kill Might Guy. He knows he has no high-speed regeneration, so he has to end this really fast. He would go into a segunda etapa as he would wrap his tail around Might Guy's throat, as he would start to form a Sero. He would form as many Seros as he can, as he would then shoot them into Might Guy's chest, just killing him. Now Lee would be like, oh hell no, what the fuck? No, I'm just kidding. Obviously he's really injured, so he can't do much. So obviously Naruto can use this as advantage. He would tell Lee that Might Guy was killed off by some Sand Village, or like Orochimaru, and Lee would still join him. It was really deceptive, but it would still work. So Naruto would kill anyone who didn't join him, as it was sort of a mercy. If he didn't join them, they would be either slaves or how do I say this? Either slaves or just only slaves, and that's it. It was a mercy for Naruto to kill them. As other Anbu and Jonin would realize that Naruto had taken over the Leaf Village, as obviously this would mean that there was a new rule. I was also obviously joking about the forging the letter and shit. That's not happening. Okay, it's much easier for Naruto to just take the village rather than him going through a whole process of being chosen by the Fire Lord Tamayo and other elders. It's just a waste of time. So Naruto and the rest of his forces would go towards the Fire Lord capital city, as they would go through all of the Anbu, who were then killing the Fire Lord Tamayo, taking his crown, taking over the land of fire itself. This means that the Sand and Sound Village would have to cooperate with Naruto's demands and join his regime. So Naruto has taken over more than half of everything at this point, or half the land, I mean. And it would also be rich. The poverty of the land of the waves would not even happen anymore. The Uzumaki village would be beautiful. There was so much, the modernization, it had become modernized with special technology and other inventions like that being developed, as it would look like an actual great ninja village. As we'll be going over the Akatsuki now. Naruto, with all this power, had, like I said, gained so many info brokers, as he had gotten with all this information he had gotten location of the base of the Akatsuki. So now he's gonna go recruit some Akatsuki members like Itachi, and this means he also met with Sasuke, like someone like Sasuke, as he had pretty much met everyone who had joined him. And pretty much he had met with Sasuke, as Sasuke would tell him that he wants to kill his brother. But Naruto would tell him like the truth about the clan and shit, and Sasuke would just get his Mangekyo and all. It's kind of obvious, but obviously Sasuke seeing the destruction of Leaf, that means his Sharingan would evolve to that of the Three Tomoe. Then Naruto telling him the truth, as Sasuke would also figure out what's happened by himself. That means he gets the Mangekyo. Sasuke, wanting to save his brother from the Akatsuki, would join Naruto as some sort of he possibly the most loyal servant ever. He had really wanted to get back his brother, even though he had spent all this time trying to kill him. So pretty much what happened is we'll start the invasion of the Akatsuki base. Naruto would swipe open the air with everyone else in battle armor or stealth inventions, trying to suppress their chakra, as Naruto would open the Garganta, as they would all rush in. Now we'll go over the lower tier members first. About 500 of them would rush in, as it would be a surprise attack. Pretty much what would happen is they would run by some of the members that Naruto wanted to recruit, like Sasori, Itachi, and they would just ignore them. Naruto would still have to kill like Kakuzu, Hidan, and Deidara. They were too risky. They had dangerous personalities, and that wouldn't work. So Naruto would rush in with Sasuke, as Sasuke would stop at Itachi. Now Itachi, thinking that Sasuke was trying to kill him, Sasuke would then say, "I missed you, brother." As Sasuke would say this, as Itachi would be kind of surprised, as Sasuke would say, "I know about what happened," as he would ask Itachi to join. It was in a better solution to die telling Sasuke the truth. So obviously Itachi would be like, "Alright, bet," and then he would like tell Sasuke and Naruto about who the masked man is, or being Madara Uchiha, as who would say that he was an Uchiha and he can become intangible. As Naruto would be like, "That's easy." Obviously, Pretty much you just have to attack him when in the part of his body which is not intangible, or which is tangible. So it seemed pretty easy for Naruto to do. Or he would just erase Obito, but you would have to be significantly stronger than Obito. Naruto was just a little bit not barely, but like, how do I say this? You would have to be really stronger than your opponent to erase them. Naruto was stronger than Obito, but not that significantly stronger. That's what I'm trying to say here. So Naruto would run through the base as he would make it to the room where Nagato resides, with Konan being there and the 6 Paths of Pain also being controlled by Nagato. Naruto would just look at them as he would impose his Ryatsu on them, not actually being level beings. He had caused something weird to happen. He had cut off the connection between Nagato and the 6 Paths, as they would just fall over, as they were pretty much dead dolls at that point. So Naruto would walk up to Konan telling her to stand down. Obviously, Naruto didn't mind recruiting Konan, since she didn't really have a deadly personality like Kakuzu or Hidan, and Nagato could easily be persuaded. So Naruto would then persuade Nagato to join his regime, as obviously he would still pull out that book telling, kind of disproving the whole Nagato taking over the world and shit, and Nagato would concede. About a few minutes later, the masked man would, warp into reality using, Kamui, as Naruto would say, "I've been waiting for you, Obito Uchiha," as the masked man would start laughing, or chuckling, as he would say, "I haven't heard that name in a while," as he would take off his mask, as, pretty much Nagato would see this, he'd be like, "Hey, yo, you're not Obito?" As he would try to use his 6 Paths of Pain, with Nagato turning into paper, as him, Naruto, and Nagato would attack Obito, with Nagato using the rest of his life force, healing himself using the one of the path's ability to heal yourself. The human path, I believe it's called. He had jumped into the King of Hell to get healed, and once he got healed, and with all of those pillars stabbing into his back, not really controlling him anymore. So he had really gotten back to his prime, as Naruto, Konan, and himself would start fighting Obito. Pretty much anytime Naruto would then be attacked by Obito, Nagato would use his almighty push. He had even started to merge with some of his 6 Paths, getting the rest of his abilities back, as he had now attained all of his abilities. He had then trapped Obito into holding him down, as he would try to suck his soul out, as Naruto, obviously Obito would just become intangible, but Naruto was waiting for this. In the middle time in between Obito becoming intangible and Nagato sucking his soul out, absorbing his soul, Naruto would appear in front of Obito. He had then grabbed him by the face, as he then rip off his head, as he would then, obviously this wouldn't be an ordinary technique. He had infused Ryatsu into his hand, almost using a bala at that point. He would grab his head, infusing the power of the bala, the pressure of bala, as he would rip out his head, as Obito would die. Now if you're wondering why didn't he just become intangible, it's simply because Naruto was that powerful. He had reached into Obito's dimension. He has the Garganta. He could go into his dimension and easily cancel out the ability. So Obito's ability just doesn't work in this instance when fighting Naruto. So Ulquiorra's abilities can be used to negate calmly. So like I said, Naruto would kill Obito, as this would stop, obviously this would stop Kabuto and Orochimaru, as they're dead. Then Obito would be dead, so no reviving Madara. That means no Otsutsuki sensing Kaguya. Then that would pretty much end all the Akatsuki. The Earth had been in peace, so like I said, the Otsutsuki not sensing Kaguya's energy, they would not know where Kaguya was, so no Momoshiki, Urashiki, or Ishiki there. Obviously the Kara members would still be there, but Naruto in the future, with the help of Boruto and Sasuke and all, they would take down Ishiki. Not the same way though, it would be completely different obviously. But without further ado, guys, that'll be the end of this what if. What if Naruto was Ulquiorra's reincarnation? I hope you like this, as, yeah. Anything, any ships like Naruto, Hinata, that pretty much went the same. Sasuke and Sakura, that kind of went the same. honestly, yeah, I don't see a problem with that. I don't know why I even brought that up. But without further ado, guys, that'll be the end of this What If. I hope you guys liked it. But without further ado, guys, bye-bye.